Welcome back to the second dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. It's now time to complete the process to becoming fully vaccinated. When both doses are administered, the vaccine is more than 82% effective at preventing COVID-19 infection. However, you are not fully protected until 10 to 14 days after receiving the second dose of the vaccine. Remember, the injection is given in the muscle of the upper arm. As part of the vaccination process, you will be observed for about 15 minutes, just so a healthcare provider can monitor you for signs of an allergic reaction. Let's talk Vax Facts.
Will I experience side effects from the second dose?
Side effects are more common and may be more pronounced after the second dose of the vaccine. The most common side effects include a sore arm, fatigue, feeling tired, headache, aches, and fever. Severe side effects are rare and treatable.
What are the possible side effects from the COVID-19 vaccine?
Side effects are normal and a sign that your body is building protection against a specific disease. The side effects experienced are usually mild to moderate and may last up to 72 hours. Common side effects may include swelling, tenderness, pain, warmth, itching, or bruising where the injection is given, tiredness or generally feeling unwell, chills or feeling feverish, headache, feeling sick or nauseous, joint pain or muscle ache, vomiting or diarrhea. Less common side effects include sleepiness or feeling dizzy, decreased appetite, enlarged lymph nodes, or excessive sweating, itchy skin, or rash. Seek medical attention immediately if after 72 hours of getting the vaccine, you feel faint or lightheaded, there are changes in your heartbeat, you develop shortness of breath, or you begin to wheeze, there is swelling of your lips, face, or throat, you have hives or rash, there's prolonged vomiting or diarrhea, or if you develop stomach pain.
What do the side effects mean?
If you get side effects, they're a good sign. They indicate that the vaccine is working by triggering the immune system. When you get the first shot, your immune system recognizes something as being foreign. The immune system automatically launches a small-scale attack against it. This process teaches your immune cells to recognize and respond to an invader. That's why you might experience some side effects. When you get the second shot, your immune system launches that attack again. But this time, there are more immune cells ready and waiting to launch a much bigger assault. That's why you may feel more side effects after the second dose, but they will disappear after a day or two. Think of it this way. The body's response to the vaccine is like a training mission for the real fight. Once you're fully vaccinated, if you were infected by the virus causing COVID-19, your immune system would be ready to launch an even larger and more powerful attack to protect you. If you don't experience any side effects from either the first or second dose, that doesn't mean that the vaccine didn't work. In the vaccine clinical trials, more than half of people didn't experience any side effects, but we still know that the vaccine was effective in those people.
Is it possible to get COVID-19 even after the second dose?
The chances of getting sick after vaccination are minimal. Studies show even if you develop COVID-19 after being vaccinated, you are unlikely to get severely ill. Flu vaccines are less effective than the COVID vaccines, but they can protect you from more severe flu illness and hospitalization. The COVID-19 vaccines are even more powerful. The efficacy of the vaccines in the prevention of severe COVID-19 is almost 100%.
After taking the vaccine, it is still important to wear your mask. Always ensure that your mask is covering your nose and mouth. Maintain physical distance. Wash your hands with soap and water frequently. If you're not able to wash your hands, always use a hand sanitizer. For more information about the COVID-19 vaccine, visit www.moh.gov.jm or contact 888-1LOVE. That's 888-663-5683. Follow us on social media at the MOHWGOVJM. Hashtag Get Vaccinated. Hashtag Get Back to Life.
The following is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
When your turn comes for the vaccine, please take the vaccine. It is absolutely important. For those who have hesitancy and fear, and all of that is legitimate, it's healthy. But I believe we have seen the vaccine at work. We know what the risks are. There are no riskless activities in life. We urge you to participate in the national program and get vaccinated.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister. The following is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
I'm saying to every single Jamaican, you will decide how this pandemic ends. If you wear your mask, if you maintain the physical distance, and if you decide to take the vaccines when it is your time, the pandemic will end. But if in frustration or just ignorance, we do not take responsibility, then the pandemic could end badly, including the loss of more lives.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister. The following is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Our children have been out of school for a year and a half. The impact on their education is significant and it will be long-lasting. As a responsible government, we cannot place the education of your children, our children, at risk. There is a ray of hope, and that hope comes in the form of the vaccine.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister. The following is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
The best indicator of Jamaica's capacity in managing the health system would be the number of beds that we have. And we have to be very careful about how we as a country loosen our measures, because very rapidly this virus could spread and the number of beds that we have could easily be used up. That would throw us into a crisis. It was not so long ago, in February, that we approached that crisis level. We do not want to get there again.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Vaccines are a type of medicine that stimulates a person's immune system to produce immunity against a specific disease, protecting the person from the disease. When vaccinated, your immune system is able to recognize the invading germ, such as a virus or bacteria. It also produces antibodies that fight and destroy the germ before you become unwell. Vaccines continue to be the most successful public health intervention in saving millions of lives every year. That is why it is essential to take the COVID-19 vaccine so that you can limit the risk of being hospitalized or, even worse, losing your life to COVID-19. Welcome back to the second dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. It's now time to complete the process to becoming fully vaccinated. When both doses are administered, the vaccine is more than 82% effective at preventing COVID-19 infection. However, you are not fully protected until 10 to 14 days after receiving the second dose of the vaccine. Remember, the injection is given in the muscle of the upper arm. As part of the vaccination process, you will be observed for about 15 minutes, just so a healthcare provider can monitor you for signs of an allergic reaction. Let's talk Vax Facts.
Will I experience side effects from the second dose?
Side effects are more common and may be more pronounced after the second dose of the vaccine. The most common side effects include a sore arm, fatigue, feeling tired, headache, aches, and fever. Severe side effects are rare and treatable.
What are the possible side effects from the COVID-19 vaccine?
Side effects are normal and a sign that your body is building protection against a specific disease. The side effects experienced are usually mild to moderate and may last up to 72 hours. Common side effects may include swelling, tenderness, pain, warmth, itching or bruising where the injection is given, tiredness or generally feeling unwell, chills or feeling feverish, headache, feeling sick or nauseous, joint pain or muscle ache, vomiting or diarrhea. Less common side effects include sleepiness or feeling dizzy, decreased appetite, enlarged lymph nodes, or excessive sweating, itchy skin, or rash. Seek medical attention immediately. If after 72 hours of getting the vaccine, you feel faint or lightheaded, there are changes in your heartbeat, you develop shortness of breath, or you begin to wheeze, there is swelling of your lips, face, or throat, you have hives or rash, there's prolonged vomiting or diarrhea, or if you develop stomach pain.
What do the side effects mean?
If you get side effects, they're a good sign. They indicate that the vaccine is working by triggering the immune system. When you get the first shot, your immune system recognizes something as being foreign. The immune system automatically launches a small-scale attack against it. This process teaches your immune cells to recognize and respond to an invader. That's why you might experience some side effects. When you get the second shot, your immune system launches that attack again. But this time, there are more immune cells ready and waiting to launch a much bigger assault. That's why you may feel more side effects after the second dose, but they will disappear after a day or two. Think of it this way. The body's response to the vaccine is like a training mission for the real fight. Once you're fully vaccinated, if you were infected by the virus causing COVID-19, your immune system would be ready to launch an even larger and more powerful attack to protect you. If you don't experience any side effects from either the first or second dose, that doesn't mean that the vaccine didn't work. In the vaccine clinical trials, more than half of people didn't experience any side effects, but we still know that the vaccine was effective in those people.
Is it possible to get COVID-19 even after the second dose?
The chances of getting sick after vaccination are minimal. Studies show even if you develop COVID-19 after being vaccinated, you are unlikely to get severely ill. Flu vaccines are less effective than the COVID vaccines, but they can protect you from more severe flu illness and hospitalization. The COVID-19 vaccines are even more powerful. The efficacy of the vaccines in the prevention of severe COVID-19 is almost 100%.
After taking the vaccine, it is still important to wear your mask. Always ensure that your mask is covering your nose and mouth. Maintain physical distance. Wash your hands with soap and water frequently. If you're not able to wash your hands, always use a hand sanitizer. For more information about the COVID-19 vaccine, visit www.moh.gov.jm or contact 888-1-LOVE. That's 888-663-5683. Follow us on social media at the MOHWGOVJM. Hashtag Get Vaccinated. Hashtag Get Back to Life.
The following is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
When your turn comes for the vaccine, please take the vaccine. It is absolutely important. For those who have hesitancy and fear, and all of that is legitimate, it's healthy. But I believe we have seen the vaccine at work. We know what the risks are. There are no riskless activities in life. We urge you to participate in the national program and get vaccinated.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister. The following is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
I'm saying to every single Jamaican, you will decide how this pandemic ends. If you wear your mask, if you maintain the physical distance, and if you decide to take the vaccines when it is your time, the pandemic will end. But if in frustration or just ignorance, we do not take responsibility, then the pandemic could end badly, including the loss of more lives.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister. The following is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Our children have been out of school for a year and a half. The impact on their education is significant and it will be long-lasting. As a responsible government, we cannot place the education of your children, our children, at risk. There is a ray of hope, and that hope comes in the form of the vaccine.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister. The following is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
The best indicator of Jamaica's capacity in managing the health system would be the number of beds that we have. And we have to be very careful about how we as a country loosen our measures, because very rapidly this virus could spread and the number of beds that we have could easily be used up. That would throw us into a crisis. It was not so long ago, in February, that we approached that crisis level. We do not want to get there again.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Vaccines are a type of medicine that stimulates a person's immune system to produce immunity against a specific disease, protecting the person from the disease. When vaccinated, your immune system is able to recognize the invading germ, such as a virus or bacteria. It also produces antibodies that fight and destroy the germ before you become unwell. Vaccines continue to be the most successful public health intervention in saving millions of lives every year. That is why it is essential to take the COVID-19 vaccine so that you can limit the risk of being hospitalized or, even worse, losing your life to COVID-19. Welcome back to the second dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. It's now time to complete the process to becoming fully vaccinated. When both doses are administered, the vaccine is more than 82% effective at preventing COVID-19 infection. However, you are not fully protected until 10 to 14 days after receiving the second dose of the vaccine. Remember, the injection is given in the muscle of the upper arm. As part of the vaccination process, you will be observed for about 15 minutes, just so a healthcare provider can monitor you for signs of an allergic reaction. Let's talk Vax Facts.
Will I experience side effects from the second dose?
Side effects are more common and may be more pronounced after the second dose of the vaccine. The most common side effects include a sore arm, fatigue, feeling tired, headache, aches, and fever. Severe side effects are rare and treatable.
What are the possible side effects from the COVID-19 vaccine?
Side effects are normal and a sign that your body is building protection against a specific disease. The side effects experienced are usually mild to moderate and may last up to 72 hours. Common side effects may include swelling, tenderness, pain, warmth, itching, or bruising where the injection is given, tiredness or generally feeling unwell, chills or feeling feverish, headache, feeling sick or nauseous, joint pain or muscle ache, vomiting or diarrhea. Less common side effects include sleepiness or feeling dizzy, decreased appetite, enlarged lymph nodes, or excessive sweating, itchy skin, or rash. Seek medical attention immediately if after 72 hours of getting the vaccine, you feel faint or lightheaded, there are changes in your heartbeat, you develop shortness of breath, or you begin to wheeze, there is swelling of your lips, face, or throat, you have hives or rash, there's prolonged vomiting or diarrhea, or if you develop stomach pain.
What do the side effects mean?
If you get side effects, they're a good sign. They indicate that the vaccine is working by triggering the immune system. When you get the first shot, your immune system recognizes something as being foreign. The immune system automatically launches a small-scale attack against it. This process teaches your immune cells to recognize and respond to an invader. That's why you might experience some side effects. When you get the second shot, your immune system launches that attack again. But this time, there are more immune cells ready and waiting to launch a much bigger assault. That's why you may feel more side effects after the second dose, but they will disappear after a day or two. Think of it this way. The body's response to the vaccine is like a training mission for the real fight. Once you're fully vaccinated, if you were infected by the virus causing COVID-19, your immune system would be ready to launch an even larger and more powerful attack to protect you. If you don't experience any side effects from either the first or second dose, that doesn't mean that the vaccine didn't work. In the vaccine clinical trials, more than half of people didn't experience any side effects, but we still know that the vaccine was effective in those people.
Is it possible to get COVID-19 even after the second dose?
The chances of getting sick after vaccination are minimal. Studies show even if you develop COVID-19 after being vaccinated, you are unlikely to get severely ill. Flu vaccines are less effective than the COVID vaccines, but they can protect you from more severe flu illness and hospitalization. The COVID-19 vaccines are even more powerful. The efficacy of the vaccines in the prevention of severe COVID-19 is almost 100%.
After taking the vaccine, it is still important to wear your mask. Always ensure that your mask is covering your nose and mouth. Maintain physical distance. Wash your hands with soap and water frequently. If you're not able to wash your hands, always use a hand sanitizer. For more information about the COVID-19 vaccine, visit www.moh.gov.jm or contact 888-1-LOVE. That's 888-663-5683. Follow us on social media at the MOHWGOVJM. Hashtag Get Vaccinated. Hashtag Get Back to Life.
The following is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
When your turn comes for the vaccine, please take the vaccine. It is absolutely important. For those who have hesitancy and fear, and all of that is legitimate, it's healthy. But I believe we have seen the vaccine at work. We know what the risks are. There are no riskless activities in life. We urge you to participate in the national program and get vaccinated.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister. The following is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
I'm saying to every single Jamaican, you will decide how this pandemic ends. If you wear your mask, if you maintain the physical distance, and if you decide to take the vaccines when it is your time, the pandemic will end. But if in frustration or just ignorance, we do not take responsibility, then the pandemic could end badly, including the loss.
And welcome to our town hall, Stay Safe, Vaccinate, coming to you live from the banquet hall here at Jamaica House in Kingston, Jamaica. I'm Naomi Francis. Well, this is really a discussion, a conversation, if you will, with Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, and of course some experts who can help guide you, to explain, to understand, for you to trust the process of vaccination. And so let me officially welcome everyone this morning, joining us online on all our social media platforms, on the Prime Minister's social media pages, on JIS, on PBCJ, and of course, live on Nationwide 90 FM. With us this morning is Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, who will lead off, really, in our discussion on vaccination. We also have with the Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Christopher Tufton, the Minister of Health and Wellness. Along with Dr. Tufton is Professor, the Honorable Peter Figueroa, and he is the Professor of Public Health, Epidemiology, and HIV at the University of the West Indies. We also have Dr. Melody Ennis, the Director of Family Services at the Ministry of Health and Wellness, and a very special guest this morning, Mr. Hansel Parchment, who is, of course, our Jamaican gold medalist or Olympian, 110-meter hurdle gold medalist, and he's with us, joining us live to ensure that he weighs in, of course, fully vaccinated as well. May I just start off by telling you, every single person you will hear from this morning has been vaccinated. I've been fully vaccinated. I'm feeling fine. The Prime Minister has been fully vaccinated, feeling fine, and we're really just encouraging you and giving you all the information you need to make your decision to get vaccinated. And so let me hand over to Prime Minister, the Most Honourable Andrew Holness, who is here this morning to lead this discussion, to hear from you, and to help explain to you this entire process. Prime Minister, good morning to you.
Good morning, Naomi, and thanks for telling the country that I'm feeling fine. I am feeling fine, actually. And yes, just to remind everyone that I've had my 2 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine. I tell you, I was more afraid of the needles than the vaccine. And that has been the case since I've been in primary school, when I suspect most Jamaicans would recall their time getting vaccinated. I don't believe that there are many Jamaicans who have not had a vaccine of some form. It is required for being registered in schools, and our healthcare system, particularly at the primary level, does promote and has a very strong vaccine program. So the population is not unaware of or inexperienced regarding vaccination. The present challenge we have, however, is that there is a significant movement against vaccination. And we're not here today to say that vaccines are riskless activities. That's not what we're saying. There are concerns about vaccines, and some of those concerns would be legitimate, as can be explained by Professor Figueroa. What we do know, however, is that for the vaccines that have been given approval, emergency approval, that these vaccines have a long history of development. Though they were rapidly brought to market, they were in development for a long time. The technology around the development of these vaccines are, in some cases, fairly standard, would have been around for decades, even hundreds of years. And the new technology is well tested and well proven as well. And the numbers of persons vaccinated around the world is significant. Some countries have attained up to 70. I've seen numbers as high as 80% of populations being inoculated with vaccines. The level of concerns in terms of adverse reactions, those have been statistically insignificant and very small. So in general, the vaccines appear to be very, very safe. For those who hold conspiracy theories and other concerns, today we seek to appeal to you, to say there is a public interest that you should pay attention to, as well as your own personal interest, and seek to balance the two and see which is more important. It is, in my opinion, more important that the country achieves herd immunity. It is in the achievement of herd immunity safely that we will be able to dispense with these non-clinical measures, which have had a devastating impact on our economy, and which are also used in many instances as a means to tear the society apart. What do I mean by this? Whenever we have to impose some form of a lockdown, whenever we have to impose restrictions on the right of movement, freedom of gathering, we see a growing pushback in the society against this. And the pushback would come in the form of the government doesn't care about the livelihood of poor people because we are closing down the parties and closing down the dances and shutting down businesses at a certain hour. And that conversation is carried right through the society without any form of acknowledgement that some of the very people who we are trying to protect, that they are dying. The deaths are not just in a certain segment of the population, older, more vulnerable people. We are now seeing a trend of deaths in a younger segment of the population, which is now a cause for even greater concern. So, in managing the pandemic, yes, we pay attention to what the science says, but we also have to pay attention to the social science, if you want to put it that way, how people are reacting. Just before we started the program, I was having a conversation with Minister Tufton, and he was explaining that the workers in the public health system are very upset, and rightfully so, with the government in some ways because of the recrafting of the restrictions. And they have a right to be upset because they are the ones on the front line. But at the same time, when we sit as a cabinet, including the Minister of Health, who is a strong advocate and defender of the healthcare workers and public health, is that we also have to consider another element in the society that is not paying attention to the concerns of the persons in public health, the doctors and the nurses. As far as they're concerned, they want to be able to go about their business freely. They want to be able to move all hours of the night, gather all hours of the night, and they make a point. They say, why are we closing down parties? Isn't a party an economic activity? That is just like any other economic activity. And these are the challenges that are thrown up, Minister, in the management of the pandemic. They will say, so don't I have a right to pursue my happiness as you have a right to pursue your safety? And how do you balance that? And how do you get the society to see that? Well, there's one way, which we are certain of, and that is if we decide to take the vaccine. And that will bring some resolution to this matter in the society. I've said it before, maybe it wasn't carried publicly, but I'll say it again, and I stand to be corrected by the experts on the panel. There are two ways to end the pandemic. One is to allow everybody to be infected. Just go about your business and get infected. And the other is to take the vaccines. You see, if we allow people to just go about their business and get infected, you cannot manage the risk of that. And you will never know when and how that will cause your health system to collapse. And the actions we are taking is to prevent the collapse of the healthcare system. And I think that people need to understand that. We're doing this because if we pass the number of beds that we have allocated, meaning what our budget can afford, what we can actually pay for, then it is not people who have COVID alone that will die. It is everyone else that the COVID attention will distract from. So if we have to take doctors to man 700 COVID beds, it is the same doctors that would have to man persons who have accidents, persons who have hypertension, persons who need emergency care. And once we get close to that capacity, you're starting to see the other demands in healthcare having to be placed in second place in order to deal with the COVID issues. So we have to act to protect the healthcare system so that we all can have good public health. And that is the challenge we face as a government, and that is what I have to bring to the public. You are the ultimate adjudicators in these matters, and I have to bring it to your attention so that you can change the way how you behave to act in a more responsible way, in a more understanding way, and in a way that is more pro-social. And I would think that there are many Jamaicans whose hesitancy are not based on following some unfounded conspiracy theory, but are generally just suspicious of new things. And I believe the best thing to do in life is to at first be skeptical and then seek information. Be cautious. I mean, a healthy dose of skepticism, of caution, but you must also seek information from credible sources, observe, see how it works, and then make your decision. I think the majority of Jamaicans who are in the hesitancy category would be in this kind of, let me wait and see. Well, I believe you have waited long enough. So let's see. The time is now. We have vaccines. We have enough vaccines that if you should come out tomorrow, we'll be able to vaccinate everyone who would come. And we have a flow of vaccines that we are guaranteed. Remember now, we strategically devised our vaccination policy this way. Minister Tufton will tell you, internally it was a big debate that we should have gone ahead and secured vaccines that were not approved. We decided that, even with great public opprobrium on that, we decided we would wait. We would wait and ensure that any vaccine that we had, it was WHO approved. And we projected that in August, and I have said that as far back as April, that in August, that's when we expect to have significant numbers of vaccines. And we were also projecting that given the independence period, the special significance it is for many Jamaicans, that we would not have been able to maintain lockdown restrictions for a very long time. And at that point, we would have had to recraft the measures. But mid-August onwards, we would go tighter in the restrictions and at the same time increase our public education and our public thrust for vaccinations. So we're doing both things now as we have strategically worked it out, that we have to increase at this point now our public education and the public drive for vaccination. So I'm appealing to Jamaicans and to persons who are living here, please take the vaccines. The best vaccines is the one that is available. The best vaccine is the one that is available. And we will have all the approved vaccines or most of the approved vaccines. But take the first vaccine that is available. That is the best vaccine. That's the safest one. Because the quicker you get it, the safer you are. So I've talked a lot, and I will have more to say. I turn back over to you, Naomi.
Thank you, Prime Minister, and it's very important that we started the conversation like that, because really, for those who are having difficulty or wavering, they just want to have that conversation as opposed to information being thrown at them, so to speak. So I'm happy for that opening. May I just say that we have persons from New Jersey in the US, New York, Philadelphia, Wembley in London, Bournemouth in the UK, Florida, tuned in and also participating in the discussion online. I have Rose online who says, don't let it get to your doorstep first before you take the vaccine. So thank you for that. Let's go to a quick PSA and then we come back and hear from Dr. Tufton.
Is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
I'm saying to every single Jamaican, you will decide how this pandemic ends. If you wear your mask, if you maintain the physical distance, and if you decide to take the vaccines when it is your time, the pandemic will end. But if in frustration or just ignorance, we do not take responsibility, then the pandemic could end badly, including the loss of more lives.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
All right, there you have it. Let's then turn over now to Dr. Tufton. Doc, your opening remarks.
Right. Thank you very much, Honorable Prime Minister, Prof. Figueroa, Dr. Ennis, and ladies and gentlemen. I think the Prime Minister has said a lot of very relevant and easily understood information about the value of the vaccine. In public health, we continue to provide the narrative, but also very importantly, execute or implement the plans on the ground to get the vaccines to Jamaicans. And I just want to mention in a minute 2 issues that I think is important to address to the populace. One would be the myths around the vaccines. I mean, I go into many communities on a given week, and the idea of the vaccine being the virus is a big one. So you're infecting me, and the professors and the doctors are on both ends, so they can address that a little more. But that's not the case. I'm giving a straight, simple answer. The second is that, you know, it has some microchip, and that we're trying to control you. I've even heard persons say it's part of the mark of the beast and the end days. And I'm not here trying to be offensive to the faith-based community, but, you know, I've heard sermons being preached against the vaccines. I want to say that as a government, I'm speaking on behalf of all of us, we are not advocating, as it relates to the vaccines, anything that is going to put the Jamaican people at risk. The direct opposite is the case. The vaccine is there to protect your life, your livelihood, your happiness against a virus that can kill you. And those myths are unfounded, and those persons who are advancing that kind of conversation do not understand what this process of immunization is. Indeed, most Jamaicans have been part of our immunization process. And to simplify, I say the vaccine process. Going into school, you would have remembered you had to take the vaccine. There's a scar on the arm that shows my getting that vaccine before I went into pre-primary school. And some of the very people who are opposing the COVID vaccine had to take it to go to primary school, the public education system. And they are all alive, they're all doing well. Indeed, life expectancy in Jamaica is where it is largely because of immunization, which is another word for vaccines. So it's not that we don't have experience in it, and frankly speaking, there's no reason for these myths. The second thing is access. We know that persons who may want to take the vaccines do not have sufficient access up to this point, because up to this point we had issues with supplies, but we also had issues with the locations. We centralized the locations, had major blitz like the National Arena, like Manchester High School in Mandeville, those central points in town centers. We are now taking the vaccine to communities, and we will come to a community near you in the weeks and months to come. And we will make it easy for you to get access. And what we say is, if you are in doubt as to a location, contact your closest health center. We have 325 of them across the country, normally within close proximity to a community, or your parish hospital, or your member of parliament, or your councillors, or your church leaders or civic leaders, because we're going to be reaching out to them to work with them. So access is going to be a lot easier over time now that we have vaccines, and we do have vaccines and a lot more to come. So the issue of availability is not the problem. We will continue later on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doc. I know that so many more people are joining us online, and we are ending at midday, Prime Minister. So let me then quickly go over to Professor Figueroa, because Prof, you've been in the field, you're a scientist, you're a doctor, and you can speak definitively, really, on the matters at hand regarding vaccinations. Over to you, Prof.
Yeah, thank you, Naomi. And I'd like to begin by thanking the Prime Minister and the Minister of Health for including me on this panel, and really to agree with what the Prime Minister has been saying. The challenge facing us as a country is not straightforward, nor is it easy. I'm privileged to sit on the World Health Organization working group on COVID vaccines. And we had a meeting that I attended this morning at 6 a.m. And it is clear that there is a significant challenge that is facing us. It's caused by a coronavirus, and the coronavirus that we normally know causes a common cold. This is something that everybody gets from time to time, and people get it more frequently, over time. And you have to build up some immunity and keep yourself healthy. The trouble is that the cousin of the coronavirus that causes COVID and not the common cold is a serious virus. And especially in the elderly and the vulnerable, it can cause hospitalization, severe disease, and death. And what we are seeing globally, over 200 million cases confirmed. There are many more than that. Over 4 million deaths. So we do have a significant challenge. Our best hope is the vaccine. Over 4 billion doses now administered globally. And countries like the UK, where they've now got over 70% of their people vaccinated, although Delta is causing an increase in the number of infections, the number of deaths has not increased in the way that it was with the initial surges that they had. So the vaccines that are authorized by the WHO are proven to be effective and safe. They are not perfect, but we do find that they are very effective in preventing people getting severe disease, and they are safe. It's very rare serious adverse events occur. Most of us now in Jamaica know someone personally who has died from COVID. We know, luckily, that most people, especially if they're young, who get COVID do not get seriously ill and die. But if you're over the age of 60 years, then the risk of death is 1 out of 11. And there is a high risk of going to hospital due to severe disease. And if you go to hospital, 50% of people in the hospital are going to get a blood clot that can take them out if they're not put on the proper medication. If you're over the age of 70, the risk of dying is 1 in 8. So this is why taking the vaccine is so important. If you're young and you get COVID, you may be fine, but you could pass it on to your parent, your uncle, your granny, and they could die from it. Now, people wonder how the vaccine was developed so quickly. But research on this vaccine, this specific coronavirus vaccine, began in 2005 when we had that SARS outbreak coming from the Far East, and it came right over to the Americas. I don't know how many people remember it, the severe acute respiratory syndrome. People were very worried about that. So the scientists began to work on the vaccine. And then in 2012, there was the Middle East respiratory syndrome that was also caused from another coronavirus coming from camels. And the research on the vaccine intensified when they isolated the coronavirus that caused COVID. The Chinese scientists made it internationally available. The genetic makeup of that vaccine was shared. So the scientists who had developed the vaccine against the coronavirus that they wanted to use to protect us from SARS, they simply changed the coding in that vaccine so that it would protect against the vaccine that causes COVID. That is how we were able to get the vaccine so quickly. The virus that causes, right, COVID. So the work in the development of the vaccine depended on all the scientific knowledge that we've built up over the decades, developing the childhood vaccines that are so effective and safe, but also went back to 2005 with the SARS outbreak. Now, some people say, but why take the vaccine? The body's immune system can fight it off. It is true. If the body's immune system is exposed to the virus, it's going to try and fight it off. And if you're young and healthy, your odds of fighting it off are good. Remember though, some young people still get very sick, have to go to hospital, and some are dying. And if you're older or have comorbidities, your body tries to fight it off, but it is more likely that the virus will defeat your immune system and you end up in hospital and you can end up dead. So this is why taking the vaccine is better than just exposing yourself to the virus with the risk of getting sick. If you look at the benefit and the risk of taking the vaccine, the benefit far outweighs the risk, because the vaccine will protect you from severe disease, and the virus may cause severe disease. Now, to say that the vaccine is a virus is not precise. That is not accurate. Some people say that. I think, Minister, you pointed out that that is going around. You can't say that the vaccine is the virus. The vaccine is prepared in a way that it cannot really infect you. All it can do is stimulate your immune system. The virus is able to multiply inside of you. So you get millions of viruses inside of you, and at a certain point, it can overwhelm your immune system. Now, I've heard people say when they do get the the vaccine, and they get the injection here, did they really get the injection? Because the needle is so small, you hardly feel anything. So one person was saying to me, but how them get the chip in this? Because, it must be a, I don't know, soluble chip, because it can't fit in there. It is such a small needle. So even for those who are afraid of needle, and sometimes it's a muscular man who is afraid of a needle, the needle is so fine, it cannot bother you. Now, hundreds of thousands of Jamaicans want to get the vaccine. So it's our responsibility now to try and help them to get it readily, so they don't have to fuss, they don't have to crowd up, just somehow that we can get the vaccine to them easily so that they can be protected. The final point I want to make is the vaccine definitely protects. If you get 2 doses of the vaccine, within 2 weeks after the second dose, it will almost always protect you from serious disease, even due to Delta. But it may not prevent you from becoming infected. You could still get infected with the virus, but your body resists getting very ill. And most people will resist getting any symptoms whatsoever, but you may have the virus. But the load of the virus in your system is much less than if you were not vaccinated. So you're less likely to pass that virus on to someone else. But there is still a little risk that you could, hence we keep on the mask. All of us are vaccinated, but we keep on the mask. If you're not vaccinated and you get the virus, then your immune system has to fight it off by itself, and you run the risk that you could get severe disease. If you have the vaccine helps your immune system to prepare to protect you and prevent you from getting serious disease.
Thank you, Prof. That was very, very powerful and simplified for all of us to get a chance to take it in bite size, so to speak, and understand exactly what we're talking about, particularly, too, the fact that this vaccine didn't just come up overnight. I mean, I hear so many people who are a little hesitant asking that, how come we just get this vaccine all of a sudden? So that you've allayed those fears, very, very important. And just as a matter of, you spoke about the science of it. To take the vaccine really takes about 10 seconds. That injection takes just 10 seconds out of your entire life. All right, let's go to a quick PSA, and then we come back with Dr. Ennis.
Year year and a half. The impact on their education is significant and it will be long-lasting. As a responsible government, we cannot place the education of your children, our children, at risk. There is a ray of hope, and that hope comes in the form of the vaccine.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Thank you so much. And let's now go to Dr. Melody Ennis, the Director of Family Services at the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Doc.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, members of the panel. Morning, everyone. I want us to turn our attention a bit to the power of observation. You know, when we were growing up, we were always told to be aware of our surroundings, be on the lookout, see what is happening. And if we then forget the science just for a moment and pay attention to what is happening in the world, we will see the death rates. I like to look at the death rates because it keeps me grounded. You know, 4.23 million persons. Had COVID only affected Jamaica, no other country, just Jamaica, there would be none of us left. Our population is merely but 3 million. So that's the impact that this disease is having. When we look at the amount of persons that are infected, that are now not only getting better, but are being called long haulers because they are forever having symptoms of this disease. I can pause to mention men who have this impotence that may be temporary, but even if it is temporary, it is significant. Why are we putting ourselves through all of that? And we not only observe the negatives, we are also to observe a lot of positive things. 4 billion doses vaccinated, 386,000 here in Jamaica. And we're fearful, of course, because it's going to alter our DNAs. But Minister Tufton, Prime Minister, I don't see you growing any other arms and legs. So our DNAs are intact. You know, we also look at the business of tracking. And we say, you know, these vaccines are going to track me. And I believe that tracking is really a feature of what we know here in Jamaica as Chinese telephone. So by the time the message gets to Prof, after it passes through everybody on this panel, it is a totally different message. Because our vaccination program here in country is such a robust and transparent process that we have always tracked the vaccines and we will continue to track the vaccines. They are very delicate medicines that must be kept at a particular temperature. So from they are manufactured until they get into our arms, they must be at that temperature. So we have to track. We are also giving vaccines to well persons. When a baby is born, the newborn is fine, and we're giving the vaccines to well persons. So we must track to see if the person gets ill. 100 of us take the vaccine. One person says, oh, I'm ill, it is because of the vaccine. We need to look at the other 99. We need to look at what vaccines they received, the batch number, who manufactured it, how did they get it. Because if I am the only person that is ill, then chances are it's not the vaccine. But if the other 99 persons are also sick, then should we be pulling that medication? So the process of tracking exists, but it certainly has nothing to do with our arms. You know?
Well, Melody, you should make that point explicit, that for your safety, from manufacturer to packaging, shipping, and to your arm, that process, the supply chain
must be tracked.
So that we know if the vaccine has expired, if it was stored under temperature, or if something bad happened to the vaccine. But there is no science available now, I certainly don't know of any, that would enable any state or any authority to be able to track you by virtue of receiving the vaccine. As Prof pointed out, the needle is so small. I didn't even feel it when it went into I was still looking when it went in. But of course, you would have seen that the needle penetrated my skin and went right in to insert any device that would be able to be tracked in any way. So that notion can be dismissed out of hand.
Easily. So because we have such a robust and transparent system here in country, persons should be comfortable with the process. We, as a part of the Americas, have embraced vaccines for so many years, and we have not only embraced it, we have been leaders. We have been the first to eliminate polio, the first to introduce a vaccine that is not only affecting infection, but is now looking at cancers. We're the first region to introduce the HPV vaccine. So there is no reason for us to doubt, because we have the science, yes, but we also have that power of observation where we can see that the vaccines have always worked and they continue to work. But persons are going to say, so it is a different type. It's not the same type that we used to get as children. At what point do we not like when we make advancements? We are moving with the times, and the technology is increasing, and what persons should really recognize is that these newer type vaccines are actually safer. Why we say they are safer? They don't contain the live virus at times. They don't even contain the killed virus. So we went from live, killed, we have particles of, and now we just have the genetic coding. So we are moving with the times, and persons should recognize and understand that really in the production of these vaccines, then it is safety that is paramount, followed by how effective they are. I just want us to be very comfortable about the process here in country. We continue to increase the numbers of persons that are vaccinated. These persons who are vaccinated continue to follow the COVID protocols. But guess what? There is a sense of mental wellness because they are at ease, they are comfortable. They know that it is not COVID that is going to carry them into hospital. And if they continue to do everything else that we say, eating right, sleeping, exercising, then they are further away from our overwhelmed hospitals. So really and truly, everyone, let us continue the conversation so that we can dispel the myths, build our confidence, because we do have a solid vaccination program here in country.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ennis. Very powerful there, really and truly. Let's continue the conversation indeed. By the way, I think phones and social media actually do a better job of tracking you than the vaccine. You know, the vaccine, there's no chip in there, right? But you can tell people, I'm going live from halfway through or somewhere else. So we can also dismiss that entirely, that there's no tracking there. Let's go to another PSA, and then we have our special guest to speak to right after this. And of course, lots of your questions are coming in. We'll take those too.
Following is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
The best indicator of Jamaica's capacity in managing the health system would be the number of beds that we have. And we have to be very careful about how we as a country loosen our measures, because very rapidly this virus could spread and the number of beds that we have could easily be used up. That would throw us into a crisis. It was not so long ago, in February, that we approached that crisis level. We do not want to get there again.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Indeed, we have to be strategic. We don't want to get there again, the Prime Minister saying that. Well, right now in our discussion, we want to welcome a young man that we're absolutely proud of in Jamaica. Welcome home, Hansel Parchment, congratulations. You made the entire Jamaica proud. Of course, you made yourself proud, but listen, man, we really, really enjoyed just watching your performance in Tokyo, Japan. And Hansel, by the way, is fully vaccinated and, of course, has a message for us here in Jamaica. Hansel, good morning to you.
Thanks to the Office of the Prime Minister for the invite. Happy to be here. I would like to be short so that everyone can remember. I got sick at the end of December, early January. I didn't know what it was. I had muscle aches, I had headache, and I was sleeping most of the time. But that lasted for about 2, maybe 3 days. And I thought, all right, let me test out these muscles to see, am I really weak or just feeling weak? And I did some push-ups and some abs and so on. And it turned out that it's just the feeling. I wasn't really weak, just the feeling of weakness. I think I was back into training maybe 4 days afterwards. Probably about 4 days afterwards. But of course training by myself because I told coach about me feeling sick and we thought it could be the virus. So I eventually got tested a few days after that and it turned out that it was the virus. But the effects were not long lasting. And I feel like I want to attribute that to my training and me staying fit and healthy. And I think I want to implore everyone to, take better care of yourself, eat properly, do some training. If you can go to the gym, you can also train at home. It's not really necessary to go to the gym for training. We can use our body weight to do a whole lot of training. Most people can manage their body weight, so gym is not even that necessary. Eventually took the vaccine. I got both doses, and to be honest, I couldn't even tell that I got the vaccine, because a lot of people spoke about side effects and having pain in the arm and all of these things, and I didn't experience anything like that. The second shot I was back to training the same day. I was lifting weights, all of that. So I feel like everybody should really, make the first priority to take better care of yourself and get the vaccine, because we want to get back to normal life. We want to protect our loved ones. And I think the most important thing, because I was having a conversation with a doctor friend of mine, and she was saying, if some people get vaccinated and then half don't, we give the virus a chance now to go back to the drawing board and come back stronger. Put on a new shell, and then it's almost like the vaccine not going to work anymore. So all the people who got vaccinated now can get sick, and even worse. So I feel like we can beat this, and if everyone decide to, let us protect ourselves and our loved ones, and to get back to a normal life, we should all think about, getting vaccinated so that we can protect ourselves and go on back to our regular programming. So I implore everyone to stay safe and get vaccinated. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hansel. Wow, that is absolutely powerful. We're going to be hearing from Hansel some more, because I'm sure our panelists, including the Prime Minister, will have a couple of questions and words with you as well, live. Hansel, Prime Minister, there are so many questions that have come up, and I think we'll spend the time in this conversation with the nation to just go through those questions as best as possible, one by one. The first question I have is from someone called Antoine, and he says, listen, man, so can somebody just give us a straight-up answer? Is there a risk of dying from taking the vaccine? And I think I'll put that to Professor Figueroa.
Yeah, there is a very, very, very small risk that is associated with the vaccine. It works out to be approximately 3 to 5 persons for every million doses may get a severe blood clot. That is associated with the AstraZeneca and the J&J vaccine.
Can you give us in percentage, Prof?
It will be 0.00001 or 0.00003 to 5.
Yes.
So the risk is very, very low. Now, not everybody who gets that very severe blood clot actually dies. Maybe 1 out of 3 of the people who get that blood clot dies. There are other serious adverse effects associated with the vaccine, and people need to be aware of this. With the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine, at approximately the same rate that I just gave, individuals may develop a severe allergic reaction that if it's not addressed immediately, then they run the risk of dying. But there have been no reports so far of anybody dying from that, because when we're giving the vaccination, we have adrenaline injection and other treatment ready in the event that someone has a severe allergic reaction. Those are the 2 most serious adverse effects. They have found that with the messenger RNA vaccine, that younger persons, more so men than women, may develop an inflammation of the muscle, the heart muscle, and the surrounding of the heart. But that usually just lasts for a couple days, and no one dies from that. They all recover from what we can see. And there are 1 or 2 other very unusual side effects, but not causing death. So it's very important that people understand that the reactions that they get immediately after getting the vaccine, within the first few days, if their arm hurts them, or they get fever, headache, or they feel very tired and weak, that is a sign that the body's immune system is responding to the vaccine, and it's being stimulated so that the immune system, after 4 weeks after the first dose, 2 weeks after the second dose, is in a position to protect the person from the virus. So that kind of reaction is the immune system, and the serious adverse events are extremely rare.
Thank you, Prof.
Before you come in, just so that we place in context. So the probability of dying from taking the vaccine, you said, would be 0.00003 to 5. you have a greater percentage of winning the lottery. But what is the probability of dying from COVID infection?
The probability is, as I pointed out, if you're over 60 years of age, 1 out of 11, right? That is 9%. And if you're over 70, 1 out of 8. But a person of any age, if they are severe enough to go to hospital, there's a 50% chance that you're going to develop a serious blood clot. That if the doctors are not alert, that blood clot would take you out. Because 50% of people who end up in hospital are at risk of developing blood clots.
Generally in the population, the fatality rate from COVID would be about 2%, 3%?
Yes, 2.2%.
2.2, yeah.
Globally 2.2. So you have several thousand times more percentage points of dying from being infected than dying from being vaccinated.
In fact, you have a bigger risk if you go into your car in the next hour and drive for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. You have a bigger risk of dying from in a road accident.
Yes. It is exactly my point, if I may, Prime Minister and Madam Chair, that to put in context, all of Jamaica can relate to the fact that we have to move from one place to the next on our roads by vehicle. And the truth is, the probability of dying in a road accident, a traffic accident, is far greater than being affected by the vaccine. So we can all relate to that. If we're going to take the public or transport or drive, the vaccine is safer. And I think that should place it into context that everyone can understand.
Thank you so much, Prof. Doc, PM, because really this is a cost-benefit analysis that a lot of, especially those who are hesitant or who are anti-vaxxers, really want to fully understand. And by the way, on our social media pages, I do see the discussion with those who are anti-vaxxers or who have genuine concerns, who are asking, Calvin, I see you. I can't just say no one lies. You have to ask a question so that we can answer the question you have to dispel any issue you have, all right? Here's another question for you, though, panelist. Olita is asking, is it not a conspiracy when so many people are dying? Again, let's put back those figures so Olita can understand what you just said, Prof.
When so many people are dying from COVID. Over 4 million have died from COVID. So explain to me what are we really asking here?
All right. So Olita, come back with a more definitive question, and we have everyone here who can answer your question. Let's go to Missy Johnson, who is on Facebook. She's asking, what if the vaccine interrupts a person's medical condition? Not so sure I fully understand, but okay, I'll put it to the doctors on our platform. What if the vaccine interrupts a person's medical condition?
Know that in everyday life, we are always being exposed to a variety of germs, bacteria, viruses. So we are always being exposed to these, and our body's immune system is responding to them. The vaccine is simply stimulating the immune system to develop protection from the COVID disease. So giving people a vaccine, even if they have hypertension, diabetes, it is stimulating the immune system to help them be protected. So it's only people who are severely immunocompromised due to, let's say, active cancer therapy, or if they're very ill from HIV or something like that, then their immune system cannot respond. But the vaccine doesn't harm the body system. It is supporting and help. It's just like a nutritious food. If you take a nutritious food, then it's helping your body to protect itself. It's the viruses and the bacteria themselves, which are in the environment or in animals, that then threaten the body.
Yes, Doc.
The process of getting vaccinated involves consultation. So if someone has a medical challenge or are fearful or uncertain about their medical condition, the doctor at the vaccine center, wherever that center is, will go through with them their medical history. If there's a need to check their blood pressure, that sort of thing, that is done. And the doctor can advise them as to the process, as to whether they need to be concerned or not. So you don't have to leave it up to you with a concern. You can express it to the doctor at the location who will work with you. And the other point that is important, and it relates to our previous question, is that when you take the vaccine, you're required to stay at the location for a minimum period of time.
Yes.
In relation to any possible adverse reaction, as remote as that is, because they want to observe you, and if for whatever reason you need attention, then you're given that attention by the doctor. So it's very safe. The process ensures that it is safe.
Thank you so much, Doc. Very important. Can I say, for those who are on social media, one of the reasons why we're doing this is we want to fully understand where you are. So the quarreling really is not necessary, because we want to hear the questions you have so we can fully understand. We want to hear really what your position is as an anti-vax, if you are anti-vax, or if you're saying, let's hold off, let's wait. We want to hear that so we can give you the information. But what I don't want on social media is a quarrel, because there's no need to quarrel. We're talking about something that is really, yes.
Look,
This is a very sensitive and emotive and emotional subject. It comes down to, in a democratic society, in a free society like Jamaica, the right of the individual to have something placed in their body. And I want every single Jamaican to understand and know and to be assured that the government is sensitive to that, and it is not the intention of the government to mandate any such thing. We respect your right to determine what gets into your body. We do have a history in our public health system where we have mandated vaccines for children, particularly for certain kinds of diseases. And that has been very effective, so effective that it has wiped out several diseases from the Jamaican landscape and globally. And in fact, we are healthy today precisely because of that. In the present context, and it is not new, there has always been strong opposition to vaccines. This is nothing new. This has been for years. It has a religious bent sometimes. It has a scientific bent sometimes. And conspiracy theories abound. We don't dismiss them. We don't say they are irrelevant, or, we will look at the basis and say, in fact, this may have no basis. But we understand the deep-rooted concerns that at the core of this debate is the right of the citizen to determine what they place in their body. The right of the citizen is not a debate in and of itself alone. The right of the citizen can only be guaranteed when the citizen also accepts responsibility. The two things don't exist without each other. There is a right that the citizen has, but the citizen also has a duty to the state and a duty to other citizens. And in the debate, we have to discuss this. Now, the way in which our state works is that we don't go and impose. Our state requires the freedom of expression. People are able to freely express their views. So what you see there on social media is the exercise of our democracy. I'm proud of it. And I'm proud to say I live in a state where this kind of discussion can happen. In other states, it can't. It happens here. And as Prime Minister, ministers, experts, we face you. And you can tell us what you feel, and you can quarrel with us. And some people tell you how they feel in very colorful language. And we listen. That's the nature of our state. And we are always, every day, trying to make that fabric of our democracy stronger. And what we have to do, as tedious as it is, as laborious as it can be, we have to just be present and keep the conversation going. Keep the conversation going. Because that's just the nature of our state. Now, it means that change takes longer. It means that we could be exposed to dangers and we are not able to act as quickly as we would like. But it requires a certain level of sophistication of communication and a very sophisticated and sensitive political machine. And I'm not talking small p, but big politics, meaning that government in the interaction with its citizens can understand the citizens' views and express to them in a way that they understand and make the decision, each person, to comply with what is, by the direction of the state, seem to be the right thing. Now, from my own research, because I have to satisfy myself that the direction is the right direction, I have to get expert advice. I have to have the ministers with his experts solid on the direction. And the direction that Jamaica has to go in is to get every citizen to voluntarily decide to take the vaccine. And that is what we're going to do. It is a calculation of risk. Every citizen has to go now and weigh Do I go the route of getting infected and take my chances? Or do I go the route of taking the vaccine where we can calculate and have a greater probability of success? That is what it comes down to. If we leave it up to you, and you just go out there and do what you want, which is what the healthcare sector is saying, then what you're going to see, you will have cases like Ansel, who, congratulations on your gold medal, Ansel. You have been an excellent ambassador on the field, the track, and off the track. But you will have cases like Ansel where young, fit, strong, get infected, and 3-4 days he's back doing push-ups and he's fine. But you will have other cases of other young, fit, fine persons who died. And as I'm looking at the statistics, that every day I track it, I'm seeing the death rate is increasing in recent months among young people. Yes. Because there's obviously a different strain with more virulent effects. We can't run that Russian roulette with people just getting infected and, you know, the possibilities are adverse effects and they could die. In fact, what would happen if we just allow people to move about freely and gather as they would want is that it would cause the health system to collapse. Because as much as people looking on and acting in their own self-interest can be selfish, in that I have not gotten sick, I am not likely to get sick, if I get sick I'm fit and healthy. The problem is that the person who does get sick and who ends up at the hospital can't breathe, lose their sense of smell and taste, totally congested. If they're older, they probably develop blood clots. Their organs are collapsing, and we have no beds for them. Now you tell me, you fit and nice and you gone to party and everything. What about that man or woman? What is my responsibility in that? And that is what it comes down to. For each citizen, you have to make that decision. Now, how can we come through this now as a country? One, as I've said before, it's the knowledge and information gap in the society. It's a really big problem we have. There are some people who are influencers who pass on the wrong information. And they have big followings. And they are misled. But they bear no consequence because they don't see the 500 people who are occupying the beds in the hospital that the doctors who are cussing off Dr. Tufton have to deal with every day. They have no sense or clue of that. Their conversation that you see on social media don't even raise that issue. It doesn't come up. But we have to look about them as well.
And Prime Minister, the doctors and nurses are putting their lives on the line.
On the line. So, as a government, we try to balance. You know, we try to allow movement and gatherings because it's part of people's rights. But there comes a time when, you know, we have to protect the health system, which is to protect for everyone. Because the only time that this will be a concern, you know, is that when they go to the hospital for other treatment, let's say they don't get COVID, and then they hear we have to postpone elective surgeries because the space that we have is reserved to deal with COVID. That's the only time that they will have a sense that they have a public duty as well. So we are at this point now where the government has to put in tighter restrictions. These non-clinical restrictions are not a solution to the problem. So even those who are debating that the government must maintain the tighter restrictions, this is not a solution to the problem. It's only temporary. I don't see us doing this for 2 years. In fact, we are struggling right now to put this in. There are people complaining. It's congestion on the roads. Everybody's trying to get into supermarkets. This is madness. People saying that. What is the other alternative? Let it go. What's the other alternative? The other alternative is to go take the vaccine. That's the only other alternative. So, you know, with all the conversations that is going on, right? We have sat down as a cabinet minister, hours just going through all the permutations and combinations of strategies to see what is right for the country. And it has come down to this now. We are at this point where we need every Jamaican, calculate your risk. If you feel you're sick and you're too sick to take it, get your doctor's advice. Many doctors out there can advise you. If you are a conscientious objector, you know, we can't force you. Take your time, do your research, right? But if you are like many other Jamaicans who say, boy, I don't know your answer. Well, today I'm saying to you, sir, go and take the vaccine. If your helper at your home is, you know, uncertain, don't know where to go. A lot of people, minister, tell me they don't know where to go and get the vaccine, or they don't know how to go and set appointment and so forth.
You don't need an appointment.
If you are in touch with them, you know, your people who work at your home, in your workplace, take a leadership role as a citizen and bring them to the place to get vaccinated. Because oftentimes, that's what it takes. It takes an influencer in your space to reach out to someone else. In the workplaces, we need ambassadors, civic leaders, managers to take a leadership role in this and have the conversation in your group. You know, for those of you who gather at bars and so forth, very important. You know, some people say the rum will wash it away. But
I have a real question on that.
Well, you know, I don't know. I'm not the expert. All I'm saying is, as part of the bar talk, yes, let's talk about getting vaccine. Because the people who are drinking, you know, sometimes I think they are the ones who might, you know, need a little bit more protection.
Yes, indeed.
That way. So, look, we can only, you know, encourage you. And I am personally begging you to go and take the vaccine.
Prime Minister, thank you for that intervention, because, you know, sometimes as Jamaicans we can get very passionate in our discussions, and I saw where the temperature kind of changed a little because people were listening to you reaffirm the fact that, yes, you have a right to say what you think and feel and get the information concerning this and any other issue in the country. So thank you for that intervention. The point you made about alcohol, though, has come up from a young man called, or maybe a Jamaican citizen, let me just say, called Dirk. What about those who will drink and want to take the vaccine? No, I go to the bar regularly, I'm paraphrasing what he's saying, and I want to take the vaccine. It going to have any harmful effects on me?
Once you just have 1 or 2 drinks and you come and have the vaccine, you'll be okay. But don't come in a drunken state.
Thank you. All right, Prof. Let me go to a few more. Prime Minister, we have someone on the drinking part.
Drinking and vaccines.
All right, let's go.
And yes, I have a drink now and then. But the Jamaican culture of relaxation in a bar context, where they have a drink or two and they discuss every current topical issue of the day or the week in a manner that's quite colorful, using creative language in some instances, shouting, because you're shouting over the jukebox, noise and music, is a perfect setting for spreading the virus, because the virus is spread through particles. So you may not see it, but once you start to shout, you project, and those particles come from your mouth. It's inhaled by somebody else, and it happens under normal circumstances. And I think this is a good time to say it does. Some people may not know because they don't see it. And once those particles lodge in someone else's nostril, it's a start of a process. And that's how the virus gets in through the lung. I'm not a doctor, I'm not the right doctor, but the point I'm making is it's so important that if you're going to enjoy the privileges that the Prime Minister speaks of as a Jamaican and the rights that you're entitled to, the social settings of the bar and indeed the church and other places, bear in mind that the vaccine is your best hope for protection. And I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tufton. Prime Minister, we have so many questions, especially given your intervention concerning, yes, ask and quarrel, and let's hear them. So let me get quickly to them. Someone on YouTube wants to find out, why haven't we acquired the Pfizer and Moderna, and why haven't we engaged the private sector? If you could respond to that. Minister, yes.
Well, we will have some announcements in the next day or two as it relates to other brands, including brands that you have just mentioned. We have taken a decision not to announce until We have the forward, the shipping documents. But
when it's landed.
Right. But we are very comfortable, very confident that in days to come we will see additional brands. We have the AstraZeneca now,
yes,
but other brands are going to arrive, and the country will be kept informed as appropriate. I think that was the question.
Yes, it was.
Right.
Thank you so much, Doc. I want to go. Yeah, the private sector.
Oh yes, so the private sector is involved. In fact, up to last week, the private sector had a vaccine blitz, if you will, at the Girl Guides head office, not too far from here.
Yes.
They have been a part of the process, working with us on several other things, including the database to capture the records of persons who are inoculated, to ensure its confidentiality and so on. And we are working with a number of these associations, the Hotel and Tourist Association, the Chamber and others, and coordinating the mobilization of their workers, and also giving them an opportunity using private doctors to provide the vaccine. So it is happening, and it will happen more.
Very good. Thank you so much. You know, Hansel, we know you're still there. There is a question here for you concerning just how your colleagues in track and field and sports are also dealing with COVID-19. If you would be able to respond to that for us, Hansel?
I think most of the athletes are taking the vaccine. Of course, not everyone, but of course there are also healthy people, and they're taking better care of their health, but it's still important to get vaccinated. And I think most of them are on board with that.
Can I just quickly interject and ask, you went to Japan for the Olympics. What was your impression of what was happening with COVID regarding vaccination there?
To be honest, I don't think, well, I'm not sure if being vaccinated was a vital point in terms of you had to have had the vaccine to come in, but we had to do tests, a lot of tests, like every single day we had to drop off samples for testing, and of course if it was found that you had the virus, you would lose their opportunity to take part. So I think they did a really good job. Everyone was wearing their masks. People were being socially distant as much as possible, and it was pretty organized. So I think that's one of the reasons why it was a successful games.
Thanks, Hansel. Really appreciate it. Let's get back to some questions. Lots of them coming in. Franco says that I'm fully vaccinated and would like my 10-year-old to also be vaccinated. When do we project that we'll begin vaccinating minors? Dr. Ennis.
Yes, we are all waiting because we know our children are vulnerable, especially now that we're seeing variants. But the manufacturers at this time have not given the go-ahead for children under the age of 12, and the only ones we are looking at is Pfizer, the messenger RNA vaccines that are now being permitted for children 12 and over. The studies have started, though, looking at children under normal circumstances. They don't do trials in children and pregnant women. We wait until medications are in the population to see what is happening before we look at those very delicate persons in the population. So now that we have utilized over 4 billion doses, we can go to the studies to see the impact effect it is having on children. And as soon as those are ready and the items get approval from the World Health Organization, as we do for here in country, then we'll be able to offer vaccines to a younger age cohort.
Thank you so much, Prime Minister. I'm seeing so many people online asking, so what are we doing? School, will we reopen our schools given all that's happening?
So a part of the strategy of managing the pandemic is to prevent movement and gatherings unnecessarily that are, avoidable. And in managing the pandemic, we closed schools protecting that population, shielding that population. My personal view, and I'm just giving you, this is not policy, but my personal view is that this is unsustainable. The impact that that has had on our education system is immeasurable. And we have asked the ministry to assess the learning loss, and I must commend the Ministry of Education for the valiant effort that they have made in trying to put together forms of outreach to continue education. The teachers who have sacrificed in terms of, even in the pandemic, reaching out to students. Some have gone to homes, carried work. Incredible sacrifices have been made. And the parents have complained bitterly, some of them, about their children not having the kind of education that they deserve, because clearly the online learning and other modalities simply just cannot replace the in-person, in-class teaching and learning that happens. So I'm just sharing with the nation, my thinking is that we must return to school. Of course, we have to do this safely. I'm pleased to see that the teachers have responded quite responsibly, and I want to encourage them and thank them. I'm seeing that, Melody, you could help me with the figures. I'm seeing somewhere in the region of several thousand teachers, over 14,000 teachers.
Yes, so we are over the 40%, we're closer to 50% now of teachers being vaccinated. And we are going on a drive. As soon as more vaccines come, Minister, we are going to be focusing yet again on the teachers. Remember, we had started with those who had students doing exit exams.
Yes.
But now it's going to be opened up to all teachers.
So, I'm encouraged by this. And again, please, I want to express my gratitude and thanks to those teachers who have taken the vaccine, and encourage others to move that process along very quickly, so that by September we would have a high level of our teachers vaccinated and ready to get back into the classroom. We have spoken about the impact on students, but it also has a devastating impact on teachers as well, in not being able to carry out their profession of choice. And the teaching online has also been difficult for many teachers, and they want to go back into the classroom. And I want to say to them that you have my 100% support in devising ways of getting you all back into school safely, which is why we are putting in place these measures now, and encouraging persons to take the vaccines. So my wishful answer is yes, you're going back to school. We are targeting, the second half of September. But just to be clear, schools will reopen as normal using various modalities. So come September, you will have your online learning, you will have transmission through normal TV and radio, the teachers distributing the worksheets and so forth. So school will reopen.
Number 6 would be the start of the new school year.
Start
that
of the
will
new
start
school year.
as normal, but
well, start as normal under COVID.
With the various modalities.
With the various modalities,
okay.
in online learning and so forth. But we're still working towards having the resumption of some form of in-person, in-classroom, looking in the second half of September. And that could be done gradually, where we bring in maybe the older grades, and then we see how it works, and then we put the various protocols in place until we can have a full return to, and I'm very hopeful of this, full return to our students being in class. But of course it depends, it all depends on the safety of the teachers, how they take up the vaccines, and how the general population takes up the vaccine, because students have to travel on public transportation. They have to move about. If they go into the general public and go back home to their grandparents, that could be a means through which the virus is spread. So it all has to be carefully managed
And again, it comes back to the only solution is for the population to take up the vaccines.
Yes, Minister.
Another segment that is under significant stress as it relates to back to school are parents, many of whom would have normally had to go to work. And schools, as you know, is not only about teaching, it's also about caregiving during the course of the day. And I've spoken to many parents who are in deep distress, not just for concern over the child, but also the alternative arrangements that have to be put in place. So it really is a real challenge.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think you have reassured some parents, Prime Minister, really, who really have been on the edge, just worrying whether or not we're going to do this.
Parents, right? They can contribute to the process by ensuring, one, their family members who are eligible to be vaccinated, that they are vaccinated, that they themselves are vaccinated, that is, the parents themselves are vaccinated, that they start the conversation with their children about the protocols and why it is important, the mask wearing, the hand sanitizing, and the social distancing. It is not a part of our culture to respect personal space. That is not something that is, a part of Jamaicanness. We're a people that are close together and so forth. But we need to now start to get our children to be in this mindset that they have to maintain space between each other, that social distancing is very important. I just said quickly, washing of hands was not a normal part of our existence. And I'm not just talking about Jamaica, I'm saying generally. It became a part of our practice over time, particularly in the previous century, when it was clear that it was a public health necessity that washing hands prevented the transmission of certain germs. It will become a part of this century's human practice, that we have to respect personal space and distance. It's it's going to be very important. Now, I know a lot of people take offense to this, but this is just a part of the way in which, as a society, as a country, as humanity, we're going to have to emerge in order to address these ever-present and evolving viruses and bacteria and other germs that will affect our survival as a human race.
Prime Minister, thank you. We really only have 4 minutes. May I reassure those who are on social media who have questions? We're noting all of them and will respond on social media to all the questions that you put forward. We're not going to end this conversation with you still having some doubt and questions in your head.
More of these.
Yes.
And we're going to go around the country. This is the start of our interaction and engagement, the conversation with the people about taking the vaccines.
Indeed, Prime Minister. So let me throw 2 quick ones in then. And Ms. Enriquez, thank you for this one. So I'll paraphrase your question. What me if you have digestive problems or bad stomach, as they say in Jamaica? Can you take the vaccine?
Yes, you can take the vaccine. And not only should you be taking the vaccine, you should be managing your eating to help that stomach that is bad. You need to not be skipping your meals. You need to be staying away from your spices, for example. But the vaccine really is not going to affect your illness in any way. Sometimes when we do have these conditions, they have an impact on our immune system and weakens it. And therefore, we don't have that robust enough defense up and running. So again, for all persons with minor or major illnesses, it is important that you take the vaccine, because when you do, if and when you do get COVID, the outcome is not really good when you have these underlying issues.
Thank you so much, Doc. Let me just squeeze one in. Especially the special needs communities, they're asking how can they make contact to ensure that you have specialized vaccination areas for them, especially the Maxfield community that has asked questions on this.
So we are going out into the communities in short order. We have mapped where our persons with special needs are, and we will be engaging them. Now, there are persons with special needs at different levels. We have looked at the vaccines, and we are on the edge of saying that the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, when it arrives, may be the preferred choice for these persons, depending on their condition, of course. But, you know, we don't want to add any stress to their condition. And as such, we are thinking that it is going to be the Johnson & Johnson vaccine for them. And, of course, we'll be engaging them in their spaces, wherever they are, in their homes, the infirmaries, all the other institutions. And, of course, we are partnering with our private practitioners to have some insight as to where we can find these persons.
So specific, especially to Maxfield and using utilizing the Maxfield Avenue Community Center and clinic.
And clinic,
you can,
yes.
you can.
We will be having a vaccination activities there at the clinic. But also be mindful, a lot of these homes have children and the age. Remember the vaccine that we now have for persons over the age of 18.
Yes.
So we haven't gone into these areas because we don't have the vaccine for them as yet.
So just bear in mind through quickly that if let's say we have Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca. Astra has been the one we have here now.
Yes.
Because Johnson & Johnson, a single dose, is better able to target the vulnerable because you don't need to go back on a second. So I know there are some persons who would prefer to have it anyway, but there are some that we would prioritize for it. And I think that's something we have to share with the country. And the Pfizer is the one that would be given for the 12 years and up, because that's the one that has gone through the testing and so on. So we will still have to prioritize some groups for some brands, even while we try to satisfy specific requests.
Thank you so much, Doc. Prime Minister, we are really just up against it. We have 1 minute. May I ask you then to just wrap up for us? And we, of course, will respond to all the questions on social media.
Right, so this is the start of our interaction, our enhanced interaction with the public to get every single Jamaican to voluntarily take the vaccine. Your government is not contemplating any mandates. We do, however, contemplate putting in incentives to incentivize the process, and we have already started that. This is about the analysis of personal risk, and from our perspective, the risk is greater if you don't take the vaccine and you get infected. The risk of a fatal or adverse event is greater for not taking the vaccine than for taking the vaccine. And from all scientific evidence and from our own observation, the risk of taking the vaccine is insignificant and low. In fact, very low. You have a far greater risk of being a victim of a traffic accident or some criminal act than taking the vaccine. Taking the vaccine is part of your social responsibility. The government has put in place non-clinical measures. We call them the infection prevention protocols, the hand sanitizing, the social distancing, the wearing of the masks, and the control of movements and gatherings, the curfew hours and the regulation and restriction on events. These are impositions, obviously, on your freedoms, but they are necessary for the public good and the public health. We cannot continue to do this for much longer, and therefore the only solution is for everyone to increase rapidly the take-up of the vaccines, and we urge you to do so.
Thank you so much, Prime Minister. All out of time, so let me thank Hansel Parchment, our Olympic gold medalist. We're absolutely proud of you, Hansel. Dr. Melody Ennis, Professor Peter Figueroa, as well as Dr. The Honourable Christopher Tufton, and of course, Prime Minister, the Most Honourable Andrew Holness. Thank you for joining us today as we started the conversation. It's ongoing, really. Stay safe, vaccinate, we urge you. The Prime Minister begs you, I beg you, everybody is asking you, please get on board, get vaccinated, and we'll see you again next time. Take care.